Mark, Luke, and John, there are 3 sets of 3 passion predictions. Now, let me talk about the number 3. What is this? Mark has a thing for triads. When he writes important things in his gospel, he says it 3 times. Say it once, say it again, and tell them what you said. That's what he does. 3. So so then, how many passion predictions were there? What's a passion prediction? Jesus is predicting his betrayal and his death and his resurrection. He tells them openly 3 times, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. But let's just work in Mark for now. 3 passion predictions. Now, last week's passion prediction was at Caesarea Philippi. Okay, that's where the first prediction occurred. Then some time goes by, and now we're up to the region. He's passing through Galilee, so he comes down farther to the south, and as he's going, he teaches them. Stop. What is he doing? He's teaching them the passion prediction. Now, when you are taught something, what is going on there? It's something you don't know, you've never heard of before. It's something new and disturbing. I was talking to Dave Barkstead on the phone this morning. He's down in Long Island. He went to a Masonic leadership seminar, and this is the part 4. It was an 8-hour talk, and they brought in a guy from Texas who's an expert in sales and communications and so on. And it had to do with, if you're a salesperson, you want people to like you. So one of the things that you do is that you cross your arms for a minute. Okay, so you go like this. You mimic the person's body language, and then they identify with you on like a subconscious level, right? And you take an active interest in them, and the sales trick too. What do? You get them to say yes, 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 yes. Here's the contract. Yes. See that? This is a real sales thing. But Dave said that during this seminar, he was so uncomfortable with the concepts that he was being delivered because they were new, and they kind of went against what he thought he already knew about how to relate to people, how to lead people. He's been in the Boy Scouts for 55 years. He's a scout leader. He's been to leadership seminars, Masonic stuff, all kinds of stuff. So this is something new, and it didn't fit the typical mold of what you thought you knew about how to relate to people, how to sell, in other words. Right? It was a completely new thing, like a psychological body language kind of a thing. Well, he had to be taught that. And he said, after a couple of hours of this, he kind of realigned his thinking, and he came to see that this was really a great idea. It was a wonderful idea. So he went back and he talked to his sons who were in sales. One guy's in real estate out Long Island. And guess what? They have had the same sales training, and they use those techniques all the time in their sales when they are out with the public. It's something new that you have never heard of before, right? So this is what Jesus is doing. He's teaching them something new. And the question is, okay, if the passion prediction is new, what's old? Last week we talked about this. In the 1st century AD, that's the time of Jesus, 7 BC to 33 AD, nobody, virtually nobody, the people at Qumran, the Dead Sea Scrolls people, the Pharisees, Sadducees, the Zealots, all religious groups who are Jews, no Jew in the 1st century held the view that the Messiah was going to come and die and be raised from the dead. It's a completely out of left field, bizarre concept. And when people would say, Jesus said, "Who do men say that I am?" Peter says, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God." Right? Well, when Peter says that, he's not talking about the Christ like we know Jesus. He dies on the cross for our sins. No. He's thinking of the Messiah like who? Judas Maccabeus, who comes in 168 BC, who kicks out the Syrian Greek oppressors, who sacrificed a pig in the temple in Jerusalem. They desecrated the temple. He wreaks justice, renders justice, and drives them out, reconsecrates the temple. The oil burns for 8 days. There's only 1 day's worth of oil. That's Hanukkah. So our Jewish friends that celebrate Hanukkah, it's a rededication of the temple, getting rid of the Syrian Greek oppressors, and it's reconsecrated again for the use of God. When people said the Messiah That's who they had in mind. They wanted a political military man to arise from their ranks. And who is he supposed to be? A son of David. Do we like David? Yeah. David is one of the heroes of the Old Testament, isn't he? He's the king after King Saul, right? And David is a great military leader. He brought glory to Israel, right? I mean, so when they talk about son of David, the son of David would be like, yeah, we're looking for a 5-star general to lead our country and to bring back honor and dignity. Stop. How did the Romans end up here? In 63 BC, Pompey Magnus, Pompey the Great, who was a friend of Julius Caesar, conquered this entire region, including Jerusalem. So from 63 BC until when? 33 AD, that's when Jesus is here, right? It's almost 100 years. 100 years. How would you like it if you're a Jew and the Nazis occupied your country for 100 years? How would you like it if, I don't know, think of the most hated enemy of the America now, I don't know, the Iranians or something, or the North Koreans occupied our country for 100 years. And every time an enemy soldier would come, they would come and stand in the back here to listen to what I had to say during the sermon. They would maybe monitor your phone calls. They would stop you along the way. You know, you're going down to the grocery store, they'll set up a roadblock and stop, and they might take money from you and confiscate your things in your car. In other words, you have you're humiliated, not just in general, like, oh, we don't like the oppressive administration. No, you're humiliated on a moment-by-moment, daily basis. What does it mean in the ancient world when you are in an army, you know, and you go against another country's army? What happens? It means that Marduk, that's the Babylonian god, is superior to Yahweh, the Jewish God. You know, sort of like we have in sports, we have, you know, mascots, you know, the Chicago Bears against the, I don't know, Philadelphia Eagles, right? So the eagle is the symbol of Philadelphia. The bear is a symbol of Chicago. And when they have combat, it means that the bear god is superior to the eagle god. In other words, not only are you humiliated as a people, your religion is humiliated. A lot of times, what happened to the Ark of the Covenant? Anybody know? Where was it? It was in the Holy of Holies in Jerusalem, right? And it disappeared about the time of the Babylonian captivity, 586 BC. One theory is that, if this is in the Apocrypha, Jeremiah knew that the Babylonians were coming and he hid the Ark of the Covenant and other sacred vessels in a cave, and it'll be revealed at the end of time. Right? That's an interesting theory. Right? People have been looking for it based on that passage, believe it or not. The other theory is that the Babylonians took it as a war trophy and took it back to Babylon, and it would have been in the, like, if this is the temple, the altar of Marduk, you'd have the Ark of the Covenant over here in the corner showing Marduk is superior to Yahweh that's down here. So they would have all the captured god idols, you know, the statues of the other countries that they had overrun. Well, the Romans did the same thing, right? So here you are. You're a Jew. You believe in God, right? And what happens to you? How many generations is 90 years? 4 or 5 or 6 generations? That's a long time to live in an occupied country. And people were really sick of it. They were looking for liberation. They were praying to God on a daily basis for deliverance. And along comes Jesus. And people said, oh, he's the guy. Did you see what he can do? He took 5 loaves, or 2 loaves and 5 fishes, and he fed 5,000 men. You know what that means? You can feed an army. What's the biggest problem when you go to war? How do you get food, clothing, shelter, and how do you move these people? Right? Like, it's okay to say, let's go to war with Iraq. Okay, how do you get your stuff here, over there, in line, in the desert in Iraq? What is it, 12,000, 14,000 miles away? That's a huge problem. projecting power from here, where it's general, to a specific point, which is wherever your enemy is. That's a huge problem. So if you can feed 5,000 men by going like this guy has real military potential. And what else does he do? He does things like walk on the water. Here we are. The enemy troops are coming. They have us, our back is at the wall. We're right here at the Hudson River. What do? The bridges are blown up. You just walk across the river and you're safe on the other side. This man has real military potential. Oh no, look, I have a grievous sword wound. Look, I've been injured by the Romans. No problem. He'll touch you and heal your sword wound so you can go back and fight another day. In other words, people looked at Jesus from a completely warped viewpoint. They looked at it from, oh, our problem is politics. Oh, we have to get rid of the Romans. We have to get rid of the corrupt people who are in the temple. We have to purify the temple, just like Judas Maccabees did. We have to make it so that we can walk around in dignity and believing our one true God, and we do believe in God. And the new son of David, who's a real descendant of David, he's the one that's going to do it. David's a military genius, and his ancestor, Jesus, I'm sure he's got the same military leadership and potential and gifts. So when they say, thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God, that's what they have in mind. So did Jesus have to teach them? Yeah, and evidently they were particularly dense. What do you mean? He had to tell them at least 3 times. Now in the Gospel of Mark, he tells them 3 times, the Passion prediction. Stop. How many times? 3. Now, is it only 3 times? No. He told them a lot more than that. Yeah. Mark only wrote it down 3 times. Isn't that interesting? You know, they say that, oh, I don't like the politicians. Okay, you write a letter to your congressman, right? When a congressman gets a letter, they say that 1 letter equals about 1,000 complaints in your district. Because most people just complain. It takes a motivated person to write a letter to the congressman. So if they get 10 letters, they multiply that out and they go, there's thousands of people that agree with this particular issue. The same thing is going on here, right? So Jesus told them 3 times. He probably told them 300 times. And so he taught them. He taught them. He taught them over and over again. He taught them. And he's walking, he's doing the peripatetic method. He's walking and talking, right? So what does he say? Here's the words of this particular Passion prediction. The Son of Man, that's Jesus' favorite name for himself, right? Why does he call himself the Son of Man? He calls himself the Son of Man rather than the Messiah because these people think that the Messiah is a military leader. Right. So he has to be careful how he uses his words, right? He's going to be betrayed into the hands of man. That's a King James. It says human hands here. Betrayed into human hands. So that word betrayed, is parodidomai. That's a Greek word. It means handed over. So I would say to Mrs. Isaacs, hey, I'll go into town. Parodidomai the car keys. She hands over the car keys to me, right? So literally means hand over. He's going to be handed over, right, into human hands. The word is hands, like hands. He's going to be handed over human hands. And so what do human hands do to Jesus? They don't go, well done, we love you, nothing like that. Human hands can be used for good or they can be used for evil. The same hands. What's the 20th century about? I talked about this week. I gave a little talk about progress, And human hands. In the 20th century, we've accomplished unbelievable things. We're richer now than we've ever been before. Antibiotics, public health, sanitation, educational literacy rates are way up, make endless list. At the same time, that's good. What did we do? The evil that we did. 170 to 430 million people were killed in the 20th century. Think about that. That's the human condition. We're capable of doing godlike things, great good, but we're also capable of doing demonic things that even Satan couldn't imagine. Imagine this, right? The stat that chills me the most. In 1931, the Japanese invaded Manchuria for the first time, so they were fighting the Chinese from 1931. We got into 1941, 10 years later. They finally left in 1945. they killed 20 million Chinese. 20 million. Do we know that? Most people, we know about the Holocaust, that's a horrible thing. We know about the Nazis, we know about it. No one ever talks about the 20 million Chinese that were killed in World War II. Think about that, right? So we're capable of good, we're also capable of evil on steroids, right? Jesus is handed over to human hands, and it's not the good side of human hands, it's the evil side, right? And what do? And they will kill him. Got that? Now, why is it important that the word kill is understood clearly? Because there are people running around, in Islam it's called the swoon theory, that Jesus didn't actually die on the cross, he only appeared to die on the cross, he faked it. Every once in a while you talk to somebody, oh, he was given a mushroom and it slowed down his heartbeat, and the Romans were tricked and they thought he was really dead, and then Joseph of Arimathea was in on the plot and he took the body down, and they, I guess they gave him some Narcan or something to help revive him. A couple days later he's walking around showing no signs of infection, no trauma at all. He healed up completely from the nail wounds, the wound in the side. It's more difficult to be an atheist and a non-believer, to reject the biblical record, than it is to just let it go. And when you say, let it slide, let it ride, what is it? It's called Occam's razor. You know what that means? Occam's razor is the simplest, most direct argument takes the day. Yeah. Well, what do you mean? He was really dead. They killed him. What do you mean they killed him? Remember the story in John where the Roman soldier who's on a death detail, who knows dead people when he sees them? I don't believe it. Well, again, talk to someone who is an EMS driver, right? They roll up on accidents all the time. They go to people who died in their homes. Do they know a dead person when they see one? Yeah, they've seen enough of it that they can tell a dead one from a live one. So a Roman soldier, and not only that, if you make a mistake and you're an EMS person, the person's not really dead, all of a sudden they sit up again, what do? They don't take you out and kill you in a heinous way. That's what the Romans do. If your orders are to execute that man, and if you come back and say, yeah, I'm pretty sure he was dead, if he's not really dead, if you see the guy walking around town, guess what? You're dead. The Romans kill you. You have to pay the penalty. So in other words, what's a Roman soldier going to do? I'm going to make sure that guy's really dead. So he sticks the spear, blood and water comes out of the side, and what is that? It's a death certificate, right? Remember when you die, the clear and the red blood cells coagulate. So when blood and water come out of the side, it means you're dead. They killed him, right? And Jesus tells them directly, and they will kill him. Okay? Stop. Where's Jesus? He's in Galilee. He's pretty safe up there. It's about 75 miles down to Jerusalem. When he went to Jerusalem, that's where he was betrayed into the hands of men, his enemies, the Jewish religious leaders, the Romans, right? They kill him down there. He knew this. He knew that he was going to go there and be killed, right? What does that mean? It means that it wasn't an accident. Many people go, oh, it was really a political plot. Yes, he was down there to do regime change, and it was going to be a coup d'etat, a revolution, and the revolution didn't unfold the way it was, and then he was killed. So in other words, his death is an accident. No, we believe as Christians, he knew he was going to be slaughtered. The lamb going to the slaughter, he knew it. And you know what? He went anyway. Yeah. What would you do? I would say, you know what? You people disgust me. You've abandoned belief in God. You don't care about God. You don't care about sin. You wallow in it. In fact, you know what? I'm going to Tibet to study Buddhism. See you later. Honestly. He knew what was going to happen to him, and he went there anyway. Now, why did Jesus know what was going to happen to him?
He's God.
Yeah, because he's God, right? When the Bible says that he knew, he looked into, he saw the person he knew, yeah, that means that's a proof for the existence that Jesus is God. God knows all. We don't know. God knows all. Okay? So he knew that he was going to be killed, and he tells them, right? And after how many days? 3 days. Why is 3 days important? Right? 3 days is, in Jewish reckoning, we believe Good Friday, Saturday, Easter Sunday, he rises. So any part of a day is equal to the whole day. Right? That's Jewish reckoning. Okay? So 3 days is extremely important. After 4 days dead, there's no hope. Remember Lazarus in the tomb for 4 days? There's no way that guy's ever going to walk again. 3 days is a very important number. The Father, Son, Holy Spirit number. After 3 days. Now, notice, does he say, after an extended period of time? In a week or two. Maybe 3 days, maybe 5 days, I don't know. We'll see what happens. No, he tells them in advance, months, maybe a year before, when this event happens, that I'm going to be dead, killed, and in the grave. After 3 days, I'm going to rise again. You see that? That's a pretty specific prediction, if you ask me. You know what I mean? That's really specific, right? And notice again, back up again. And 3 days after being, what? Killed. So, how many times does he say killed? Twice in this little section here. Notice, it's not after 3 days of faking like I was dead, swooning and in the tomb where I revived and walked out, I was resuscitated, it's a scam or something. You know, don't tell anybody. It's secret knowledge that we're going to do this thing. No, he tells them again, in case you missed it the first time, I'm going to be killed. And after 3 days, after being killed, guess what? He will rise again. Got that? I don't know about you, but that's fairly amazing. Right? A person who says, I'm going to be betrayed. That's pretty interesting. I'm going to be handed over to my enemies. I'm going to be killed. And after 3 days after being killed, I'm going to rise again. That's rather remarkable. That's amazing. Be like President Lincoln saying, I'm going to go to Ford's Theater, and at 10:02 p.m., right, Our American Cousin play is going to be on, and when the great laugh line of the play is said, I'll be shot in the head right here. It's going to come out this way, first my eye out. I'll be pronounced dead at 7:22 a.m., and after 3 days, I'm going to rise again from the dead. If someone said that and did that, what would you say? St. Thomas falls down on his face and says, my Lord and my God. That's what. Right? It's an astonishing thing. Well, then why don't we take this seriously? Well, because it's in the Bible, and we don't read the Bible. It's in the Bible, and it's been domesticated. We've heard this. I've heard this stuff since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I try to do when I preach and teach, I want you to try to recapture the shock value of this book. If you were standing there when Jesus said this, you would have been like, the guy must be like wacky or something. Mm-hmm. There must be something in the wine or something. He's talking crazy talk. Why? Well, because the Messiah is going to go to Jerusalem, and we're going to kick out the Romans. We're going to do the military thing. That was the prevailing, everybody knew that Jesus was going to be a political leader who was going to kick out the Romans. And instead, he's doing this crazy stuff. I'm going to be betrayed and killed, and 3 days rise again from the dead. That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. Mm-hmm. It's so foreign to their thinking that what do you do when you confront a new idea that disturbs you? Well, yeah, it kind of goes in one ear out the other. You kind of ignore it. Yeah, the guy's crazy or something, right? Mm-hmm. Usually they are, right? You know what I mean? Like we have an inbuilt resistance to education or paradigm shifting or new worldview kind of stuff, right? So this is why it didn't penetrate, right? And he does it again in chapter 10, a third passion prediction. And then what happens? Then when these events finally do occur, they go to the empty tomb. The tomb was empty, and that's when they believe that he did rise from the dead. So it took the resurrection, the empty tomb, for them to it's like, remember when he taught us that in Galilee, and we thought it was wacky talk? Crazy stuff? Remember that? Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, he didn't tell us it was going to be on the final exam, or I would have written it down. Isn't that strange? So it has to do with human nature and the way we are, the way we're hardwired, the way we resist teaching, you know. So he's teaching them this, right? Now quick, let's wrap it up here. They come to Capernaum. Remember, Capernaum is like his headquarters in Galilee for his 3.5-year earthly ministry. He's in the house, and he asked them. Notice this. Did they ask him a question? No, it says here, they were afraid to ask him. Isn't that interesting? Is that true? Yeah, I'm a teacher, right? I teach hard subject, economics. Most people, they're afraid to ask me. If they something they don't understand, they get embarrassed if they ask a question. And the truth is, if one person doesn't get it, chances are maybe the other 20 students don't get it either. But nobody wants to be the one to ask the embarrassing question because it makes them look foolish. So it said, okay, class, do you understand? Yes, we understand. They say it all the time, right? Do they understand? Not so much, okay? So they're afraid to ask him. And how did Jesus know that they were afraid to ask him? Well, when they got to the house, he asked them a question. See, he's the master teacher. Yeah? What were you arguing about along the way? What were they arguing about along the way? They were arguing about who's going to be the greatest one, right? What does it say? On the way, they argue about which one, who would be the greatest, okay? What does that mean? The greatest when? The greatest after the revolution. You got that? When they go down to Jerusalem and kick out the corrupt religious leaders and set up the Jesus administration, right? Execute all the evildoers, the new King David sitting on the throne, who's going to be the greatest? What do you mean? Who's going to sit on the right hand? Who's going to be the Secretary of State? Who's going to be the Secretary of the Treasury? Who's going to have the plum positions in the Jesus administration? Remember me, J-Man? I was with you right from the beginning. Yeah, I'm the guy that said, you know, you have potential and I'm going to sign on as one of your disciples. I contributed to your campaign. That's what they were arguing about, right? Now, when did Jesus suffer?
His entire life.
Yeah, not just when he was arrested and beaten and all that. No, he suffered his entire 3.5 years of earthly ministry with these people. You got that? Imagine this. You're trying to teach these people that you're the Lamb of God, take away the sins of the world, you're going to die on the cross. And what do they argue about? Who gets to be in the Jesus administration? In other words, not only do they not get it, but they're rubbing salt into the wound. You see that? I mean, it's amazing to me, right? And so he sits down and he goes, okay, he calls the 12, that's the 12 apostles, and he said to them, whoever wants to be first must be last and the servant of all. Do they want to hear that?
No.
No, they want to be waited on, right? No, they want a situation where, well, we beat the evildoers, we now have a heaven on earth utopia with the political military Messiah sitting on the throne. Please, kiss the ring. Yeah. Yes, it's like being the district deputy grand master. You know? yes, you get respected wherever you go. You go to the Socrates diner, it's like, that's what we want, right? So, but instead he tells them, no, you're not going to get, you have to be the servant of people, the servant of servants. You have to wait tables, in other words. Well, they don't want to hear that, right? So he takes the little child, right, and he puts the child among them. He takes the kid into his arms, and he says, whoever welcomes one of these children in my name welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me, but not one of these, okay, so what is this all about? Do we love children? Yes, we do, okay? I did a lecture this week in economics, and I'm trying to explain the difference between a model and the real world, because we have economics models. So I put a plastic model of a 55 Chevy up, okay? Now the 55 Chevy is a very important car for me. It was my father's first car. And when I was a kid, I used to lay on the shelf, you know, the back window, which has the bowed window. I used to lay there and look up and look at the clouds in Minnesota when we're driving out into the country. I loved it up there, right? Laying there in the back window. It was a perfect place for a kid, right? Now, I was explaining this to the kids. They're 18, 19, 20 years old. They're shocked and horrified. And I said, I too am shocked. My father, Elwood Isaacs, would be in a penitentiary right now, and I'd be in foster care. If they imagine driving down the street and see some 4-year-old kid laying in the back window of a car. It would be, call the troopers, call the social workers. It's a horrible thing, right? And so a model is good to show the young people you know, where I was when I was a kid. I was abused as a child, forced to lay in the back window. And I was explaining to him, well, you see, in the 50s, that you slam on the brakes, the kid goes flying through the front windshield of the car, splattered all over the rock. And what do? No big deal, just have another kid. No big deal. Life is cheap, you know. So I grew up this way. No big deal. Life is cheap. The playground we used to play on, you know, all kinds of hazardous stuff, you know. We're lucky we're alive at all. So who are we? We are people that did survival of the fittest, you see. The weak ones are all dead. We're the ones that survived this childhood experience, right? Well, in the ancient world, guess what? I joke about life being cheap and all. We hold children in high regard, right, in our society. You know, we have the car seats, the booster seats. I have 7 grandkids. I visit them at their place. I don't try to take them in my car because it takes too long to load up all the car seats and everything, right? And up to age 10 or 12 or something now, they have to be in a booster seat. I mean, it's unbelievable, right? So, but because we cherish children and we take education and we put children on top. In the ancient world, what did they do? In the ancient world, sometimes you don't really even get to know your kid. You kind of keep them at a safe distance because 50% of all children die before the age of 10. In the ancient world, children are non-persons. You're not really a person. When you get your bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, what does that mean? You made it to age 12 or 13 and you're still alive. Let's have a party and we might even give you a name now. You see that? So we put children in high regard. They're the other way around because they had such a high child mortality rate that you literally keep the children kind of at a distance. You don't want to get to know them and love them because they might die. I mean, it's an amazing thing, right? So Jesus is saying, take one of these non-persons. Children are non-persons in our society, ancient world, and you have the person sit here on your lap and love the person and include them in. Well, that's the way you're supposed to be. You're supposed to include people in. Just like a child that has what do children give you?
Oh, love.
Nothing.
Love.
Heartache and woe. 3 daughters, 7 grandkids. I have gray hair, gray mustache. I'm completely penniless and broke. I'm destitute. My nerves are shattered. I'm a broken and shattered individual. And what do? They leave a stinking, rotting corpse like myself on the side of the road. They never come to visit me. Yeah, that's what they do, right? So children you don't say, oh, children bring me great benefits and acclaim. No, they don't offer you anything. You know, they offer love, right? But they don't really get ahead. If you want to get ahead, you have to know somebody important, a mentor or a patron or something. So Jesus says, love these people even if they have nothing to give you in return. See that? Do the right thing. Do the right thing. Just do the right thing. Don't sit there and do accounting and try to figure out, okay, if I'm nice to that kid, does that mean I get money in my bank as a result of it? No, you just love the kid who doesn't have anything to offer you. All right? So I better end right here. It's the second of 3 passion predictions, extremely important material here. And you want to read this and think about it and really absorb it. Amen.